Hi, everyone. I am back from a almost 2 week social media break, and I want to talk about it. If you don't know me, or if you're new to this scene, my name is Allie Samberts. I am a romance author. I indie publish my books. I've written books like The Right Place and Not a Strong Enough Word, my newest release that came out May 14th. Most of my romances are kind of bookish characters, and I've got something for everybody, so check them out. All right, so as a romance author, it is kind of necessary to be online these days. And I am what we might call chronically online. I am a millennial. Essentially grew up with social media, not as much as some of the younger people. But I definitely had a MySpace, and that's kind of where it all began with me with social media. I have had social media probably every single platform that you can think of for as long as I can remember. I am a Gemini. I love being social. And social media has always been kind of a way for me to keep in touch with people. And now in the writing community, it is a way for me to publicize my work, to get my work out there, to reach a new audience that I might not otherwise be able to reach. And of course, I love doing in person events. I actually scheduled a bunch of in person events this summer because I wanted to get out from behind the camera and I wanted to get in front of readers and actually talk to people like face to face. And so far, that has been really fun. I just had a signing at the last chapter in Chicago, which kicked off kind of my summer tour. And I will be at the Appleton, Wisconsin Public Library on June 21st. And I will also be back at Our Town Books in Jacksonville, Illinois on June 28th. So if you're in any of those areas, come out and see me. So the thing about social media is that I love it. I love it here. I love showing up on all these different platforms. I love gabbing at you, as you might be able to see. But I have been struggling lately with how to show up on social media authentically. And what I mean by that is I have seen a lot of authors experience success on social media. Their posts are blowing up, they're going kind of mini viral. I have never had that happen to me. I think the most that I've ever gotten on a TikTok post is like around 9,000 views. And I think the most that I've ever gotten on an Instagram post was maybe 15,000. And that was one time. And it was because it kind of blew up on Facebook. And I don't really know why. And the other thing that is really frustrating about that is that I have shown up consistently since I started writing. And I know that consistency on social media is key. And that's part of why it took me so long to take this break, because I know that showing up kind of trains the algorithm to show you to your followers and then to people beyond your followers. And so I have tried to show up with consistency day in and day out. And I wouldn't say I'm not successful. My books sell decently well. I have no qualms about how many people are reading my books or the social media interactions that I have with people, like the DMs and stuff. I have no problems with any of that. I just wish that I could be seen by a few more people and get in front of a few more readers, because I know people would love my books. I know it. And so I started kind of seeing a lot of authors experience some success in this area on social media that I was not experiencing. And I started getting a little jealous. And that's a hard thing for me to say, because part of what I have built my brand on, I guess, is that I do not believe that other authors are competition. I believe that they are teammates. I'm not competing against other authors. There is more than enough room for all of us. I just want a slice of the pie that they also have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that, right? I think any author who's being honest is going to admit that they see somebody who's more successful than them and think, gosh, I would really like some of that. And so I'm going to admit it. I'm admitting it right here, right now. I wanted a piece of that pie. And so what I started to do was I started thinking about ways to just produce more, right? I hired an assistant to help me. She was wonderful, absolutely loved her. She did amazing stuff with my accounts, but it didn't feel authentically me. because it wasn't. And then I started trying to kind of recreate some of my friends' formulas. You know, you've seen the post, right? The B-roll with the quote on it, with a hook, and then the little tropes, and then a short little caption. And I started trying to create some of those myself, and they are really easy to make. But again, it didn't feel authentic to me. What is authentic to me as a teacher, as a storyteller, is showing up here and talking. And that's what I like to do, right? But the algorithm doesn't necessarily like that all the time, which is why I really love YouTube. Side note, I really love YouTube because I feel okay coming on here and just kind of gabbing at you. But again, not going viral. And if I do, is it going to sell my books? Like, is it book related? Like, sure, you can see them here, but is anyone going to hear this and be like, ooh, I think she would write really good books. I want to read them. I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know. But I think what was kind of competing in my brain was really the ability to show up authentically in spaces like this and also sell my books. Because let's face it, being able to continue publishing does sometimes hinge on how much money I'm bringing in doing it. And it is not my first career, but I would like it to be more of my income than it is right now. It would give me some wiggle room when things happen, like really, really, really bad school years like this year. And I don't want to leave teaching either. I just want to be able to say that I'm a successful author and a successful teacher. And I know that it's really, really hard to do two things. I know that. I know that firsthand. It's part of what has led to my burnout. So, amidst all of this jealousy that I was experiencing, I wrote Not a Strong Enough Word and released it in May. And it is all about a famous writer who gets super burned out and has to figure out how to protect her ability to write at all costs. And part of that is setting boundaries around some of the events that she does, setting boundaries with her love interest, and saying, yes, I do want to publish this book, but not at all costs, right? I am not willing to sacrifice my mental health to publish books. And then she has to kind of figure out a way that she can do this. She can continue to publish her books without sacrificing her mental health. Well, I never said that I was very good at taking my own advice. It probably took me a lot longer than it should have to realize that Scarlett, the female main character in Not a Strong Enough Word, was like me in that way, because she was getting these like multi-million-dollar book deals. I am not getting that. Right? So I was like, oh, well, this isn't me. You know, I get burned out every once in a while, but I can rebound because I'm not doing the things she's doing. Yes, I am. I am showing up at the book clubs. I'm showing up at the signings. I'm not touring around the world. I'm not doing late night talk shows, but I'm doing the Instagram lives. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads. I'm on Threads. Actually, Threads might be the worst offender. I'm not going to lie. And so I'm doing what feels like all of the things on top of also teaching, which is a full-time job, more than a full-time job, if we're being honest. I'm parenting. I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. I'm a wife somewhere in there. I'm coaching. I coach a activity, a competitive speech activity. And so I'm like doing all of these things, and like, hello, it was only a matter of time before I probably was going to burn out. On top of all of that, this was a really, really hard school year, both personally and professionally. And I had a lot of like family emergencies that came up, and I had a lot of professional like teacher emergencies that kept coming up. And this is not to say anything negative about my school. I think everybody there was just doing the best they could, but for some reason the hits just kept coming this year and I just couldn't get a break. And so over and over and over again, I kept saying to myself, things will get better when, whenever this next thing is over. But then another thing came up. And like some of these things were super joyful, right? Like my kid was in a play, both my kids were in a dance recital. I published my favorite book that I've ever written, and I'm still super stoked about it. And I'm so proud of that. I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of the way that I showed up here, even if it wasn't authentic all the time. I'm proud of what I have done, but it was still stressful. So along with all of that, and I have talked about this a little bit on here before, but my body kind of started breaking down. I was having some problems with my hip, which is a reoccurring problem, but I just kept putting off taking care of it, right? And seeing a doctor about it. I started getting all these kind of weird infections that are not normal for me. And I just kind of checked it up to like, oh, I'm 40, I'm getting older. And that might be part of it, but like stress hurts your body. And if you don't take care of the stress, then you're going to have a hard time taking care of your physical well being, which then leads to, you guessed it, more stress. And it's just kind of a vicious cycle, right? And so these things kept coming up. And then I also kind of, because things were going on personally and professionally, I just kind of started ignoring it. And I was like, you know what? It's going to get better. In the summer, it'll get better. When school's over, it'll get better. When winter break comes, it'll get better. Right. And I just kept thinking like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. When I release the book, it'll get better. I'll stop being so stressed and blah, 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 blah. And it just kept not getting worse necessarily, but I just kept feeling it and feeling it and feeling it until everything became kind of life or death, fight or flight. I just felt panicked about everything. And listen, if you're thinking to yourself right now that taking a 2-week social media break cured her and that's what I need to do, I just need to take a break for 2 weeks and then I'll be fine. No, I still have some weird things going on. I just prioritized myself and my relaxation. And what happened was I can start to kind of feel myself feeling better. And that's why I came back on this space with a plan to be a little bit less present. But when I do show up a little bit more authentically and do the things that I feel comfortable doing and the things that I feel like that are fun, because this is supposed to be fun, right? So no, a 2-week social media break did not cure me, but I did notice some really interesting things that I think you might be interested in. So whether you're an author or you're running a small business or you do author related services or you're a reader or whatever, here are some interesting things that I noticed about my social media break. So the number one thing, and this was wild to me because I know this with my students who are glued to their phones, right? They are like locked into their phones all the time. And I know this, but they are overstimulated, overwhelmed, and constantly have some kind of input. And this is especially bad in a large high school. They're constantly on their phones having this like light and sound sensory input, but they're also surrounded by like their peers who are like spraying the body spray. And so they have that sensory input. They've got loud bells and music and loud crowded hallways. And so like all of those like the tactile inputs as well, they're overstimulated. Well, I work in that space. And so guess what? I'm also overstimulated. And so when I'm also locked into my phone, I'm starting to feel that overstimulation as well. I timed this break on purpose so that it would coincide with the start of my summer break so that I could kind of be away from some of those sensory inputs at the school. Granted, my children are loud and sometimes overwhelming. And so there is some of that, but that's life, right? You're never going to get rid of that fully. So I timed it with the start of summer. And also, my kids are at summer camp 3 days a week, which is amazing. And it gives me some time to like decompress and do things like this without them screaming in the background. The first thing that I noticed was that I still picked up my phone just out of habit. It was just out of habit. I didn't even think about it until I would unlock my phone. And then what I had done was I had set a screen time limit on all of my social media for 1 minute. So I could, and I did, still come on and check DMs and just, I mean, I had events lined up and, that's kind of how people contact me. So I was able to come on and still check that stuff for just real quick and make sure that everything was okay. And then after that, I would kind of shut it down. So what I also did was I physically moved the app on my phone screen to a different place. And what was wild to me was how many times I picked up my phone and my thumb would just hover over where Instagram used to be. And I would go, oh, it's not there anymore. And then that tricked my brain into saying, like, oh, you're not supposed to be, you're taking a break. Stop it. You're taking a break. And so it was kind of incredible how many times I picked up that phone just mindlessly. I didn't even think about it. And I didn't count, but it was a lot. It was a lot more than I was comfortable with. And so then the next thing I started being able to do then when I would notice that, I would think, well, why did I pick up my phone? Usually it was when I was feeling uncomfortable, right, about something. And it was maybe when my kids were getting a little bit too loud, or when I started feeling maybe anxious about how my books were doing, or when I started, I don't know, like my body felt uncomfortable because I still am sort of battling some of these physical effects of this stress as well. And then I would think, okay, well, what else can I do? What else can I do that'll make me feel better that is not social media? So a lot of things were like drinking water. I still don't feel great. So there wasn't a lot of like exercise that could be involved necessarily, but I would drink some water. I would get up and walk around. I would pet the dog. I would, maybe put my phone down and just talk to my kids a little bit, which of course I do on a regular basis, but it was kind of nice to have that reminder, like, oh, you don't need to be on social media. Other thing then that I thought was really cool is that this kind of dissipated really quickly. I would wake up in the morning, and usually what my routine is I wake up in the morning, I check my social media, kind of lay in bed, checking social media, and I'm just kind of like doing my thing, and I justify it by saying this is relaxing, which it is not, or I justify it by saying I'm working, right? Like I'm doing all of the social media now so I don't have to do it later, which part of that might have been true, except that I also then did it later. And so this kind of forced me to not do that. So I started kind of waking up without social media, and that was really helpful. What I noticed about like my views on Instagram, because I have all of those metrics, and actually on here and on TikTok, is that nothing really changed. I still had people going to my profile. I still had people checking me out. Full disclosure, I was still running meta ads about not a strong enough word. And then I have like a really low level ad about my backlist. So I was still running that. So I was probably still getting some attention that way, but still like old reels kind of started picking up a little bit more. I started getting likes on those. I got a lot of new followers, which was interesting. And then because as we know, every time you post something, you lose followers. I was not losing any followers because I wasn't posting anything. And so really my account still grew, which was weird to me and also really reassuring. Like I don't have to show up in these spaces every single day to still grow my audience. Yeah, some of this requires money, and that is a privilege to take. Not everybody has that privilege. I absolutely. But full disclosure, I'm running until Saturday, so like a month after release, I am running a $15 a day ad about not a strong enough word, and I'm running a $3 a day ad on like just a trope graphic about the rest of my backlist. So it's not high level ad money at all, and I do think that helps. But honestly, I expected my views to fall a lot more. And then the other thing that I noticed that I thought was kind of interesting was that once I stopped checking social media, I also stopped checking my sales dashboards. So I stopped checking KDP, which is, if you're not an author, it's like the author side of Amazon publishing. And I also stopped checking like Ingram and ACX. And I guess I didn't really realize how much I checked those until I stopped checking them. And then it would be like, I just forgot about it, right? Like, because I wasn't checking social media constantly, I wasn't also checking those other things. And I think what happened for me was that I was, checking Instagram, checking TikTok, checking threads, checking KDP, checking ACX, checking. And so I would just sort of run through the checks. And then like some time had passed. And so I would start back over and run through the checks again. That's like not healthy. That's not healthy. That's not good for anybody. What is going to change? But then the other thing that was totally wild is that I stopped checking, but still my sales and page reads didn't change. And granted, they are not high right now. And I feel like a lot of authors are experiencing this lull, which probably increases our stress levels, increases the need to check when we check Instagram or whatever when we feel uncomfortable, increases the need to feel like we need to be posting and being here, showing up all the time. You really don't. You really don't. At least I haven't. Nothing really changed. They certainly didn't increase, but they didn't decrease. I thought that was really interesting. I did, full disclosure, start to kind of see a little bit of a slide off towards the end of my 2 weeks. So maybe I hit the limit of like not talking about my books. But I think also, a lot of the social media advice right now is to start talking about your life, start talking about things like this, not only talking about your books. And people are starting to get really like they don't want to follow authors because we just continue to talk about our books all the time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about your books, but I think we get afraid that if we're not constantly talking about our books, that they will stop selling. And I am here to tell you that that is not the case. That is not the case. Now, you might not be finding any more readers if you pull back a little bit like I did, but you're not finding any fewer readers. And I think that that can be kind of helpful and freeing. So, the other thing then that I needed to do was I needed to fill the time because I was bored. And being bored is good, but I also was kind of taking a step back from writing a little bit because I just didn't feel able to craft the kind of story that I wanted to. And I just needed to take a break and heal my body and my mind before I could jump back into that. I actually pushed back some of my editing deadlines with my editor, and I pushed back some of the publishing deadlines that I had for myself. And I feel really good about that. It's not by a lot. I'm still writing this witchy romance. It's still going to release in the fall. It's just not going to be September 1st. And I think that's okay. I actually think that that's a better move for this story, but you won't have to wait that much longer because it will still be released in this fall. So what I ended up doing was filling the time with other things. So I had thought about producing an audiobook for Pumpkin to Talk About that I wrote last fall. And so I got on that. This is maybe the first place that I'm saying this, but I've cast 2 narrators that I love. And so that will also be releasing in the fall. But I was like able to focus on that. And I am going to do another video about that process too, because it was really fun. It was really fun. I was able to do that, which is something that I had on my list for a really long time. And I'm just really excited that I was able to get it done. And then I also was knitting a lot, which is a hobby of mine that I just haven't had time to do. I was reading a lot, which I haven't had time to do. And I started drawing. I watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials about Procreate and I started drawing. And I am not good at drawing. I'm not bad at drawing, but I'm not good at it. Like I'm not putting my designer out of business, that's for sure. I'm certainly never going to sell any of this, but that's kind of the point, right? I was doing things like knitting and drawing, things that I'm creating that I'm not going to sell. And it really freed me up to say like, it's okay if this is terrible. It's okay if this is bad. And so my brain just kind of needed that permission to say, it's okay if this is bad. Like, it's okay if this isn't worth something in a capitalist sense, right? It's worth something to me, and it's worth something to my mind, and it's just me showing up for me and creating something that doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be good. And you know what? Like, part of what I've learned from that process too is that social media also doesn't have to be perfect. I can just show up, and I think that's part of the fun, is just showing up and messing around and talking. Like, this is maybe the first YouTube video, maybe the second that I've done that's not scripted. I'm just talking. And it is, I don't know if you can feel it from the other side of the camera, but like, I'm having fun doing this. This is fun. This is what I like to do. And it's not going to be perfect. I am going to edit it, obviously, a little bit, but it's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be fun. It's just fun. And that's what this space should be, right? And there is no shade to anybody who is writing a book and thinking, I need this to make money. That's great, right? I have come to some conclusions this school year. I did, full disclosure, I did think about leaving my teaching job. I think everybody probably thinks about leaving their teaching job at one point or another, but I did decide that I don't want to. I want to continue in this career, but that also changes the way that I'm viewing writing, because now I'm teaching to make money and to do good in the world, but that's the money maker job for me right now. And so the writing doesn't have to be. And therefore, I think also, which is really freeing to me too, is that it also doesn't have to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist. I'm an Enneagram type 3. I am an achiever. If I don't reach my goals, I feel like a failure. And I think maybe I just need to let some of that go. And I think some of the social media break, what it has taught me is that, yeah, I do need to let it go. But not only do I need to, I can. I can give myself permission to do what I need to do and show up in the way that I need to show up when I can. And that really, other than that, not a lot is going to change. And so I'm really excited to be back in this space. I'm really excited to be creating content again. I also kept, like, in my notes app, just a bunch of ideas about social media content that I was like, all right, I'm going to pull this out later. And that has been really fun as well. And so I'm just really excited to be back here, to show up in this space, to keep writing. I had like a 5,000 word writing day when I started writing again. And oh my God, like, when was the last time that happened to me? I don't know. And so I am just stoked about it. I think that I'm ready to kind of shed these expectations that I've had for myself and just start doing me and doing writing the way I want to and the way it looks like for me. And I just really think that good things are going to come from that. And so if you need permission right now to take a break, then by all means, you have it. I don't know if you need permission from me, but I'm giving it to you. Take a break, take some time off, think about what it means to show up here and how you want to show up, and not imitate other people and not look at other people and think like, oh, I wish I could do what they're doing. Man, it feels so good to not be doing that right now. And I really want to hang on to this. I don't know how to make this sustainable going forward, but I think the one question that I'm going to continue to ask myself is this fun? Are you having fun? Are you having fun, Allie? Because if the answer is no, then I'm not going to do it. And I think that that's just going to be really freeing for me. And I'm really excited to see where this takes me. If you feel like supporting an indie author, of course, you can buy my books. I sell these signed direct on my website. There's a link below in the caption. You can buy me a coffee if you found this useful. That would be really cool too. Thank you. And if you can't do any of that, you don't feel like reading romance right now, you're not really into like a super emotional read about burnout, that's cool too. But I hope that this found somebody who needs it. And I hope that if you're feeling overwhelmed or burnt out or feeling like you need to take a break, that I hope that you do. I hope that you feel able to do that after watching this video. So if you liked this there is more like this coming because I had fun filming this, and it answers the question, was this fun? The answer is yes. So make sure you click like and subscribe, hang out with me, and I will be back hopefully next week with some more. Bye, y'all.